Whatever I did was just a little bit which seemed to go against the tide.
Rebel par excellence.
But I did it my way. But I did it with conviction, and I must say that I personally feel that if you do it with sincerity and honesty, things fall into place. Everything falls into place. So I never had that kind of an opposition that normally we keep hearing about or reading about. And yes, I faced opposition, yes, from society at large, from everybody at large. And I would like to share an incident, how the inner strength in me came in also because of the family, and particularly my mother. On one incident when somebody, well, you know how society is more concerned. So mentioned something unsavory to my parents about if they allowed me to take dance as a career, since I don't come from that kind of a family. My mother heard him out and said, okay, Mr. So-and-so, this is within the boundary of, this is our drawing room. Outside the boundary, it's public land. You are at liberty to go and say anything negative and adverse outside that boundary. But while you're here, please understand the dignity that we allow her as long as she maintains these principles. So I was very, very happy to see that. And this was when I was a tender 14 or 15 years old.
Oh, that's extraordinary. I mean, that's really a path-breaking parenthood that you have enjoyed. And that's clearly showing in the kind of achievement that you've managed. But that's not the run-of-the-mill family. I was told that your goal in life should be to be a good mother, to have a good family. You should have the capacity to earn. But earning should not be your first calling. You know, that was the values ingrained. Nobody stopped me from working. But that was not seen as priority. That was not the encouragement. You should be capable. But certainly, that's the second for you. The first priority is you have to be bringing up your family. Now, Rina, yours is actually charting a new path. Normally, what do we mean by saying I rebelled? You know, okay, in Shovana's case, it is also taking up a dance career. It normally means I rebelled. I went and I did an engineering course outside the city, or I went and did a management course outside the city. I took a job outside the city, or I kept the job even after my baby. That's our extent of rebellion. But you have rebelled with a brave new profession. Tell us your story.
Oh, sorry. So now my sons are big. I have boys. But it's such an emotional topic even today for me to reflect on this. But I always felt that there's no justice in this for the working woman. There will be guilt. I had tremendous guilt as a young working mother. And the kids used to be waiting for me, and that used to really bother me. Sorry, I didn't realize I would cry. My son's going to get married now. But yes, I learned lessons on the way. I say this today to my working counterparts. If you can carry your children to work, please do it. It's great to look at them, even if they're in the background creating a ruckus. Always be nice to your mother, your mother-in-laws, because they are the ones who will bail you out when you have to travel overnight. And of course, your partner, because he matters the most. Because a lot of times fathers chip in for the absence of the mother. There's always a price to pay for a working mother, I felt, at least my experience. And I used to compare my life, I remember, to my cousins who were non-working mothers. And I thought their children looked so like non-naughty and calm. Mine were very hyper because I think somewhere they were wanting my attention because I was away. And we had to travel a lot. Even if I was traveling, I would have to, sometimes I took my kids along, but it always came with an entourage, and distractions were very hard for me to handle. But what I think, looking back, they say, at 13 years of age, the children get normal of non-working mothers and the working mothers. And today in hindsight, I know they're fine because they can survive anywhere because they've had to look out for themselves in a way from a younger age. And God bless our country because we get so many people to come in and help us out when we go to work, whether it's your husbands, whether it's your mothers, mother-in-laws, and even the nannies and sisters who come to help us.
Now the point is, you shed a tear when you said that the children grew up several hours. I want yet to see a man shed a tear and say that a better part the child managed without me. Yeah, I mean, that's the point I'm trying to bring. And Naina, on that point, since you have been in the best of B schools and, even primary schools.
The best B school.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. You know, there is a problem that those of people I know who have been through the more ordinary courses in Mumbai or in other cities, those girls have managed careers. But often the best in the B schools, and I mean even IIMA, have a problem of the trailing spouse. They usually marry other IIMAs or IIMBs. And you're somehow like, his job shifts, you shift. Obviously then your career is not taking off at that level. So being more educated or going to a better school has not always ensured the self-fulfillment of women. Do you notice that problem? That more money is not the solution.
I think today you are seeing a lot more consultation between the two educated MBAs, a wife and husband. Well, I can tell you the book I put together, 30 Women CEOs, it was very much a case of the women there were the trailing spouse. They managed their careers because they were good. They moved jobs because they couldn't change within their job as they followed their husbands. So you're right. I see this discussion even when I was heading the bank, so, even 10 years ago, that we would have guys coming and saying, I really would prefer not to take the promotion and move because my wife's job is there. So it was happening. Couples have chosen, and I had two of the key women reporting to me who, with some hesitation, opted for long-distance marriages because they took the promotion and moved away. And it had to happen in a way that the kids remained behind, so the husband took charge of the kids. So these consultations and discussions are happening much more than I think at my time when it was again, I believe the societal pressures from the home front, the parents saying, you have to keep the family together, you have to be the one to move as the girl. And I think that is happening because the women are better educated, they're much more firm about their education. Companies are also much more friendly to, sometimes you have the husband, wife working with you, you will try and accommodate them. I know how actively we called around to check if there was an opportunity for the husband's family, the husband's job to be accommodated to our women employees, to see if that move could happen together. So there is more work to happen, but there's a lot happening on this front.
Well, that's definitely good to hear. And let me chip in my way. I also ensure that the fewer number of boys in the newsroom these days, I ensure that their wives are also at work. I mean, if, you gave a lion's share because the girl is a young mother, a portion more, I definitely ensure, am I keeping you here? Am I preventing you from picking your child from daycare? Then I won't give you the extra, post 4 o'clock session. So we do go the distance to ensure that not only our girls work, but our boys' wives also work. I mean, we do that little bit if I want to contribute to what I did my way. But, let's now have one round of advice from all of you on how laws can change. I mean, I'll also be subsequently asking you how society must change, how corporates must change. But first, let's begin with government. How should government change? Now, I have one suggestion. The number of months of maternity leave has now been extended to 6, from 3 to 6. That sometimes becomes a deterrent. When you're hiring a young lady, there have been employers who either openly ask or wonder without openly asking whether I'll be forced to give now 6 months leave to this person, maybe in a year or so of her joining. My suggestion would be that actually the first 6 months are pretty useless. The child is just lying, it's not even turning. And the moment it starts turning and requires attention, you have to be at work. And by 7th month, they actually recognize you. And it's an even bigger heart-wrenching problem to go to work. From my end, my one suggestion would be, give us 6 months maternity leave, but allow us the option to take that leave any time in the next 2 years. You want it when the child starts getting teeth and therefore, troublesome, or when it is toddling, or when, a nanny is changed and you have to get her used to the new nanny. That's my suggestion. But you tell me, how can law help us?
Latha, I think you have a better suggestion than law. You're right. It's, the first 3 months, the baby needs us, but you can have someone to help you, and it works. But I think the challenge is really not what the government mandates, but what your working conditions mandate. It is the companies. So there are many companies who are now making an effort to make sure that women come back to work. And that is where the energy should come from. That they create an environment where, you choose, take 3 months off, come, and they have these programs. So someone who's taking 6 months off doesn't feel like they've lost a position, that they're not being promoted because they were not there, or they have a child. So in my opinion, I think companies must first take that step forward and say, how do we bring back these women into the workforce? Because they're intelligent, they're committed, and being a mother, they've probably learned a lot more on how to deal with people and manage difficult situations. So this is what I would say. And then let the government mandate what it has to mandate, but let it start within companies.
No, I think that's absolutely well put, that often in corporates, because there is this, elbowing out or wanting ambition, which makes someone grab the little bit of 6 months that you get from someone. So the one-upmanship clearly makes life difficult for a woman. But my sense is government manages it well. I think people, my relatives who have worked in government, those women feel less challenged when they go away on leave than in private sector, where you always feel someone is at your back, taking away your chair, taking away your responsibility, taking away your show on television, taking away your beat in your reporting space. I mean, that happens in our case all the time. I feel government actually manages women a little better. But Shovana, you're the only person in us who has worked in government. So if you can add to that and also tell us how rules must change.
Yes. Let me say that there are two aspects to it. In any organization, if the person is a good, hardworking person and the person who contributes, because you also have man or woman, people who don't contribute but take the seat. So people would like to have them. Now, in the case of a woman, motherhood means a lot of responsibilities, additional responsibilities of a different kind also. You get your 3 months or 6 months. In our times, it used to be 3 months. What is that we all, and particularly women who've come out and they're working, they also have their ambition. They would like to be, their work to be known. There is also another aspect. It's not only the ambition part of it in terms of the position, but also in terms of contributing their, that kind of a delivery and the output. But at the same time, in government, women do manage better, and they do. After the first 3 months,
government is a kinder employer.
The cycle, yes, they do go back, and many of them have done well. We don't at least have that. We'll be thrown out of job. We won't. We are there in the job. You might not be in the position that you were in. In that means you might not.
You're not running at the speed you thought you would. But your foot is in the door.
You know, and you won't, your promotion is not going to get affected, or so all those aspects are there. There is a security, a mental security. It is a question of where your posting is. Whether you like the posting, it's of your choice or liking, or would you go to another ministry or somewhere else. But that, of course, is part of it. But people actually, a good worker who has the reputation is welcome back, and they do get good postings. And so far, I find that within the system, there have been people understand, are able to, and of course, a lot of our colleagues are male colleagues, but they're, yes. But what is important is the quality of output. And therefore, that matters. But we don't have that Damocles sword hanging over our head that we will be demoted, or we won't get our increment, or that we will be thrown out of our job. I think that's a basic security factor, mental security, that also goes a long way in giving that energy, that security to the woman.
Absolutely well put. Yeah. Outstanding people will always be retained. I take your point, and I take your point about government's attitude of permanence of job to some extent.
Latha, I think I have a long laundry list, and it goes beyond the subject we discussed. At the base level, it is about safety. Until it is entirely government's responsibility to provide safety. We've also seen now it is a corporate's or the hospital's responsibility to provide safety in the workplace. But, you know, why do we not have well-lit streets? Why don't we have better police streets? Why do we have rules today which forbid women to work the third shift at night? Some states, even Uttar Pradesh now, has looked to change it, but it did it after some corporate pressure. So the reason the rule is there for safety of women, but start with providing that safety so these rules which are discriminatory don't exist. So we have a long way to go in terms of the environment that we provide for women to succeed and work, and for families to not be worried that they're straying away from home.
No, I think this calls for a round of applause. What Naina is saying is, please, to put the finger on the real problem, that if you had good law and order, this would not have happened. The very fact is that you don't have the basic infrastructure of lighting in every street, and the confidence that the law will work in your favor. If we can provide that confidence, we would have won many battles for women, lower class, poor. A whole lot of problems would be solved if we can get the basic soft and hard infrastructure, the lighting and the law and order in place. I completely well taken. But your thoughts, Rina, how law can change or companies can change so that not just that women work, but women do, unusually and path-breaking things like you.
Thank you. I'm with path breakers. I don't feel I'm one, but I really don't, but thank you. So I feel simple things like a creche, because they've come up with some kind of mohalla clinics. Now, I don't know if they were successful, but what I'm trying to say is, in an imaginary world, if we manage to give them good, healthy, safe creches in their own units and colonies, and for a certain economic section, that those be not either be very free of cost or taken care by the companies they work for. And I know in big factories in South India especially, they have a lot of female workers, so they have creches on a certain floor for the younger mothers because they don't know where to leave them behind. But mostly I think it's the creche to also provide education for the younger kids, because the smaller, they start by about 2 to 3 years of age. And if there is nowhere for them to have those daycare centers, I feel that can help the corporate woman if she knows her child is safe and there is a way for her to commute, like you said, and the lights are safe and she is safe to pick the child, and it should be in the line of convenience. Actually, our commute has become very, very rugged and tough in most of our metros. So that also adds up to the cost of travel, the strain on the mother or the worker?
No, absolutely. I mean, take your point on everything that you mentioned. But now let me just come to the aspect of how society needs to change. Shovana, if I could start with you on that. You know, you were a trailblazer. Very often, women or girls, all of us grow with role models. How many pilots have you seen who are women? How many astronauts did you see who are women? How many ministers did you see are women? How many chief secretaries or even secretaries have you seen as women? How many bankers? You know, how many brokers? Often you model yourself on the numerous people you see like yourself. So what would a girl want to be? Teacher. Because she always saw girls as teachers. Do you think that's where we start? Just put more people in top positions.
Yes, to a lot of people, they see somebody and they want to be they want to emulate that person. Now, in terms of numbers, yes, it could be better. It could have been better. It can be better, and I hope it's going to be better in all the fields. But we are going. I mean, yes, the numbers are increasing.
Is society
slowly.
changing, you think?
But society, I would like to ask a question. That when we're talking about change in society, we are seeing so many unfortunate incidents happening all day in, day out in every part of the country and the globe. Is it only patriarchy which is part of responsible for it, or we as women folk are also contributing to further that mindset,
values.
to further that mindset, because somewhere we as women folk, now let's say that today we can say that a lot of women have gone out of the house to work, but yet it was happening even when women were sitting at home and were doing nothing else. Yet what kind of people were, what kind of a mindset are they instilling in their young child? And that's where I think both parties, man and woman, and particularly the woman, even with her intangible, not only the tangible, that you should be like that or do like that, but the intangible, her own actions, her own behavioral pattern, her own mindset will be much more, are much more potent than the actual set. And that is what we as women have to be very careful in every home. In every home, right at the beginning level, because that is where the child starts picking up the first. And the child is subject to a lot of good influences in schools, but then there's a disconnect. If it is a different environment or at home, so there's a disconnect. And then so the child goes another way. So we have to, I would say, when you're talking about society, the society, building of society starts at home. And it starts with the mindset at home. It starts with the behavioral pattern of the woman, and therefore the man, the boy and the girl, not only the girl but even the boy, the little child at home, because they are going to be the future generations who will be reflecting the mindset that they've grown up with.
Oh, I take your point completely. This is superbly well put, and it is the responsibility of the women as well to, carry the flag. I mean, that point is taken. Suneeta, I still think it becomes a man's world as you go up to the top. There was a survey done, I think it was an EY survey, I forget the people who did the survey. At the joining level in junior management, about 35% women to every 100 men is the rate of joining. By the time it comes to middle management, it becomes 14%. And by the time we come to CEOs, it falls to like 1%, but I think Naina said 4%. Yeah. I'm not so sure of 4 even now.
Same survey, it says 5.
Okay. So, that's the way it declines. Do you think that as you go higher, there is a restriction imposed, it becomes a man's world? Do you think we need not just one, but mandatorily 2 women board members? Should that become something the government needs to think about? I mean, one woman doesn't raise her voice, but if there are 2 of them to discuss, maybe they'll talk in the board more.
Latha, I come from a very strange family where I think the women and the men were considered equal. And I think that women should always earn their place because of the knowledge that they have and the commitment. And having a mandate is good because I guess you need to put mandates in the beginning. But later on, a woman will only be respected if she's got the knowledge and she's got the ability to serve on that board or to do, even in higher positions of management. It was not easy in the beginning. I remember the first day I went to work and I met a CFO. He said to me, "You're here because you're, the founder's daughter." But he had a point. I mean, I got a position there, but I went back. I did a program. I studied finance. I studied capital, treasury markets. I did all of the study to come back again. So I think knowledge is important. So as long as women are learning, they will deserve it. As long as women are listening, they are very good listeners. If they're listening to the society around them, they become doers, they become worthy. So what I'm saying is they need to be worthy of the position. And third, people think that women don't have time. So if you look at people who are really successful, like people who read, who are in touch with innovation. So this is another thing that we as women need to do. We need to read. We have to show that we are innovators. We're not just women. We're not there on boards because we're good at nurturing. People accept that. They also accept that we're intelligent. But I think this next level for the next decade, it has to be also about innovation. And I don't think anything needs to be at a certain level, a certain degree of development you need to mandate. But beyond that, I think women should earn these positions and that's sustainable.
No, I take your point, but both you and Shovana are expecting the responsibility to rest with the women rather than with the...
A correction. Not only with the women. It's
primarily with the women?
Both. Since, after all, our home is made up of both man and woman. Okay. So if the man is overbearing and unreasonable, let's say that, the wife can stand up and say, and I'll quote a small example. In 2020, when there was a little window when the lockdown had lifted, a 12-year-old student of mine came to meet me. One couple came to meet me to invite me for their son's wedding. In the course of discussion, this gentleman said, "I tell my son that there's no need for you to go into the kitchen because your sister is there, your mother is there, and now when he gets married, it's going to be the wife. So why should you do it?" This little 12-year-old stood up and said, "Why? Doesn't he have hands and legs? Okay. Only she has hands and legs?" So now the question is, when I looked at the wife, I said, "Do you subscribe to what your husband said?" She said, "No." I said, "Did you ever stand up?" She said, "No." So I said, it rests on both.
No, I agree with you. Well, let me add to your, the subtle changes we are seeing in society. I read way back, I think when Femina was still a very popular magazine. I read a piece as early as perhaps late 90s, I don't remember, where it said dowry has almost vanished in the South. And it has been replaced by a demand that it should be a working girl. Only then we get married. So that itself is a bit of an evolution that, you wanted a working girl, so you will ensure she will work, which would be an advantage. But anyway, let's get to what mantras you have for the coming generation. Before that, what's your view? I mean, you should be the person who should answer this. How about 2 women in every board? Shouldn't the rule be changed? I've heard, women being passed over in the board. How Betty hai, chalo. All the men have their view and then the minutes are written. Have you noticed that?
Never.
May I just say
they wouldn't dare.
Just one thing, that we have 6 women on our board.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. So, round of applause for Apollo Hospitals.
So it's not because they're women.
Yeah.
Maybe
And-
one because we had to have, but it's
And
because of the
Latha,
knowledge.
I don't think there's any issue even if there's one woman on the board, because if she's there because she has also made it, her voice counts. I mean, the women who've got to these boards are women who are used to being in rooms full of men. So I don't think any woman sitting on any of our boards today is a pushover. So we shouldn't really worry about that. The issue may be more where the woman on the board is a member of the family and she's there to tick that presence, and she may need some mentoring to make sure she has a voice if she is being passed over in quite that way. But in terms of the regulation, I think the one thing the country did right was make the regulation. I'm totally against quotas, but we were down at 5-6% representation on boards, and that one regulatory change which made it mandatory for women to be on the board has brought us up in a short period to 18%. We are still below a global average of 23%. So we still have a ways to go, but without it, we would have had to hang our heads in shame because we would have been the global lowest. And so sometimes regulation helps. I don't think we need to make it mandatory for 2 now, because the women who've now made it have proven they can be there. And in fact, there is a perennial hunt now for women to come on board. And the more progressive boards, and most of the ones I've been on, have 2 and 3 women anyway.
Am I the only one in this panel who feels that there is a boys' club? I mean, I feel it very strongly that there are instances where very capable women are kept capable, but at the CXO level, it becomes somehow, we go out, we drink together, we smoke together, and it becomes a boys' club. You think there's no boys' club out there, Naina?
I think there was a boys' club. I don't think it's there today, because the issue is that today the hygiene policies in good companies of equal pay, equal opportunity, they exist. Now, the sad thing is they may exist on paper, they aren't always followed completely in practice, which sort of plays to your boys' club argument. But I think the women of today have a voice. They negotiate, we negotiated, you navigate through that way, you don't take the shit. And what you then get is resonance, because at the helm there are enough people who believe that they should at least be doing the right thing, particularly if it's pointed out to them. So I think between having the hygiene factors and women having a voice and having mentors both within and outside the organization, that boys' club vanishes. Having said that, in areas which we need attention, entrepreneurship is one of them. We continue to see resistance to lend money to women entrepreneurs. There are biases amongst banks and lenders. That needs to change. I think within families, why the son becomes the automatic, whether he is the best there or not, is an issue. And I often ask families where the girl has actually come in, would it have been the same if they had a son, or a son that was even interested in business? And, the frank ones amongst them say possibly not. So that male bias, the best kid in the family business should take over, whether boy or girl, might also need changing. But I think for every Suneeta or Shovana or Rina here that has proved it, it becomes easier for families to decide. And I am really struck by, there was a time when I would have young girls coming up to me at airports asking for advice. Now it's husbands, it's fathers, wanting to know what is right or wanting to share their experience with their daughter. That is a change, a big change. It's not girls there fighting for themselves, it's families fighting for them.
Okay. Well, actually, we are getting a lot of questions. Why don't I involve, I doubt we'll be able to handle so much, also because I'm having a problem reading the handwriting. It's written in pencil, so by the time it comes here, it's not very clear. Let me just take a vote here. This is, I think, about 10% women in this room. So the first question is addressed to the 10% women, 10 or 15% of women over here. Do you think it's a boys' club out there which makes values, rules, and therefore has impeded you in some way? Yes or no? Women vote first. Raise your hands. This is all of you saying, okay, for those who say no, boys are not stopping you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's quite a few.
That's 3%.
Okay. All right, I think that's quite a decent number. But let me see how many people feel that boys did, the opposite. How many of you feel that boys have restricted you all? Boys, men, fathers, bosses, brothers, neighbors, anybody but male. Have males come in your way? Anybody? Oh, there's only one. Okay, this round. Oh, here, we have more. Here. Okay, I'm going to raise my hands. No, I do believe that values have come. Okay, I think, it's somewhat equally divided now. There are some more hands coming up. But it still looks like it's women don't feel that men have come in the way. So that really speaks well for the men. Anjali, you want to say something?
Yeah. I remember what Naina Lal said a long time ago. If I can see through the glass ceiling, then I can break it. So I think powerful role models like that have been good for women like me. Because definitely, while I had a supportive father, brother, husband, son, everybody in my family was supportive, I think there is a man's club, an old boys club. The fact that there's only 10% women here speaks for the fact that there is an old boys club. The fact that women need to go through a directorship training, whereas men don't, speaks for the fact that there's an old boys club. The fact that even here you are asking this question speaks for the fact that there's an old boys club. But the mind that needs to change is that of women. And somebody like Naina, Suneeta, Shovana, Rina, somebody like you, Latha, can help younger women to change that mind. That is changing. I think people like us had to fight more. These women, the younger women, have it much easier. I think Naina's daughter, my daughter, have it easier. They don't have that supportive structure, but they do have it easier. But do we still need to fight? Maybe we need to negotiate.
Oh, wait. Thank you for that. Let me allow the men to vote. How many of you think that men keep women, in second-class positions? How many hold men responsible for the second-class status of women? All of you vote, please. None of you think? Wow. I think next time you shouldn't have this discussion in that case. But I'm one person who's going to vote on that side. I think society does school you to be in a second-class position.
Good afternoon.
Please, sir, go ahead. Yeah, can someone reach a mic?
Madam,
I believe we have to wind up.
I want to say something.
Yeah. Sir, yeah.
I would like to inform, and I hope you should keep it updated at your level also. Till 31st of August, there were 3 members in Railway Board. At the level you are talking that women should be in the board. This Chief Executive Officer, Railway Board, Jaya Sinha. Then Member Finance, Urupa Srinivasan. She is my batchmate. Jaya is 1 year senior to me. And third is Secretary Railway Board, Aruna.
Okay.
She is also in the board. So in railways, we are having a system of inter-se seniority which is followed. Okay. And anybody who reaches that level gets into the board. Okay. So there is no limit or 1 or 2. It can be 3. Okay. And I have given you example of 3 in the board, in Railway Board.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. That's excellently well pointed out. We have to call it a day. The next panel is waiting by. If you can make it in one sentence.
Yeah. I won't take much time. I wish to share some views of the men's world, which you have been mentioning. Mm-hmm. You see, I can say and admit part of my personal family, we have had 3 generations of working women. My Mother was working. I'm 75. My wife, she started working from 75. She retired as a professor in Delhi University. My two sisters were principal. One sister, she retired as a senior doctor. Now, I am coming to a question, a very different dimension. None of you probably would have thought of, but to some extent, it extends what Rina has stated. You see, my daughter, she did her MBA.
So we have to wind up. You have to be a little quick.
My daughter-in-law is in MBA. They were both working when they got married. When they became mothers, they resigned from jobs. Nobody forced them. Rather, my wife, she was convincing them all the time to convince. But you know what was the answer? They said, Mommy, when you used to come from the profession, there was nobody to receive her at the bus stop. Nobody received us at the house.
Yeah.
And we missed that.
Yeah.
She said, we don't want to do the same thing to our children.
A small
The point
statement.
taken.
So
Actually,
the ladies are themselves protesting now.
no,
Thank you.
I have got a lot of
Just a
comments
minute.
saying exactly that it is women who come in the way of women. But I think this will be a problem that will remain unresolved. Maybe we should have more sessions. Thank you very much, Rina, Naina, Suneeta and Shovana.
Thank you all for a very interesting session and for being here with us and sharing your views. I'll request Director General AIMA, Ms. Rekha Sethi, to kindly present mementos to the esteemed panelists of this discussion. We thank Ms. Suneeta Reddy, Ms. Rina Dhaka, Ms. Shovana Narayan, Ms. Naina Kidwai, Ms. Latha Venkatesh,